Hey, everybody, it's Mike Meyers with Richard Chapman, and we're two bald nerds. We have a very interesting topic today because it's a little more esoteric as term as topics go, a little more philosophical, you might want to say. And what was taking place here is Richard and I, you might imagine, we actually think ahead of time about what we might want to talk about that you guys would like to listen to. And we had a really interesting kind of a conversation where Richard started this, by the way. I'm innocent. And Richard's like, security software. And of course, I'm like, well, Richard, what do you mean about security software? Are we talking about, utilities or full-blown applications? And Richard's like, security software. I'm like, okay, we got this, man. So sometimes it's fun when we don't define it that well, Richard, because I know you and I have different thought processes on things. So I took you at your word, sir, Mr. Chapman. I took you directly at your word, and I said, I will come up with important security software. And I have done so.
Interesting. I like it. Well, I'm interested to see where you go. I will have to say that I'm still reeling over the use of the word philosophy in the same sentence as two bald nerds. Are we philosophical?
Well, let's put our heads together and see what happens.
Anyway,
I am philosophical, although I'm somewhere between Ayn Randian objectivist and a Nietzscheist, but yeah.
Gosh, you got really serious and really deep there. Holy
dude. I've got some books you need to read, and we got to get you started with like Kant at least. Now, philosophy is actually a great passion of mine. So,
well, you start throwing stuff at me like Thomas Paine's Common Sense. I'll understand.
There you go. Well, that I like philosophy, and of course, Mongolian throat singing. But that's about it these days.
I need an example of that now. Let's go.
No, I'm kidding. Wow. You remember those guys? You seen those where they make like 3 or 4 noises at once? That's pretty cool. All right. Can we talk about some applications around here? Some security tools. So I took the low road, as I am wont to do, and I thought, what were some of the most important security protocols? And I chose, you ready? ipconfig, or IP, depending on where you're at, and ping as my 2 most important security protocols. Now, this speaks
really.
Well, keep in mind, this speaks about how I look at security. I'm a systems guy, right?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, we're coming from completely different.
Which makes this subject so much fun. So for me, I have just gotten so good over the years at just using command line utilities for determining a lot of stuff. I mean, for example, with IP commands, IP information, if my IP address should be 14 dot something, and all of a sudden it's 169.254. That tells me a lot of things. Or worse yet, if my IP address is supposed to be 14 something, and then all of a sudden it's 15 something, that could be a clue. So I like to use that. I like to use ping. I might scratch that and go with like a trace route or something, because I like to know where my packets are going, and those can often be handy tools. So those are that's the way I was looking at it. I did throw in one graphical application, and that's Wireshark.
Okay. Understood.
If I can see where the packets are going, I can diagnose the stuff. Sometimes it's a pain in the rear end, but those are the tools I'm going for. Okay, so I kept it simple, Richard.
Yeah. See, it's funny. It's funny you say you kept it simple, but a lot of users today would say that those are actually more difficult to use because it's much more granular and manual. You have to know what you're doing to use those, right?
Well, it's like it's in the Matrix, when he's looking at the raw code, the letters just coming down, and he's like, I see blondes, brunettes, redheads. And I totally understand what that guy was saying, because it's like, strip off the gooey schlep stuff and understand what's going on. Now, granted, I don't have 1,100 systems to support.
Yeah.
Right? Interconnected with 60 switches and 8 routers and God only knows what other kind of boxes. So that's where your little EDR tools and such probably would make my life a lot easier. But
well, I got to tell you, a lot of people that watched The Matrix, when they saw the green screen, all those green cool letters coming down, that's all they saw was a bunch of green cool letters coming down. They weren't seeing code. They weren't seeing, and I can 100% attest. I'm one of those people too. I mean, I got the idea of what they were talking about there, but I don't know that I have that skill set, like looking that granular.
you
To a
could
certain degree,
you could run an IP config command,
I
and
can, and
you would
yeah, I've
recognize
used,
every line of it. I'm telling
yeah,
you, when you type ipconfig/all
yep,
and somebody's standing behind you, you know what they're seeing, Richard? The matrix screen.
yeah, of course, exactly, totally get
So
it, yeah,
yeah. So for you and me, that's just blondes, brunettes, and redheads, right? So,
yeah,
but we can look at those screens. Wireshark, another great
yeah,
example of
great,
something that could easily look like goobity gock.
yeah,
But
yeah,
plus it's a great,
until you
it's an audience
understand,
pleaser. It's an audience
yeah,
pleaser.
yeah, until you understand what you're seeing in Wireshark. Once you understand what you're seeing in Wireshark, you see the different layers and so forth, and the protocols and everything. Then you can kind of, okay, you start to tear it apart, and you can see it. But you say easy, I say that's actually a lot more manual to most people. So that would actually probably be more difficult. And when you're talking about having 1,100 systems to manage, yeah, that's a lot more difficult
But it becomes administratively impossible.
Agree.
And that's where I'm assuming your kind of tools come into play. So I don't want to put words in your mouth. Richard, hit me with your security application, baby.
Well, I think this translates, and there's two different versions that I have here, both on the just normal user side and then more on the enterprise side. But antivirus / EDR tool, I mean, it really is, in my opinion, one of the most important software, security softwares you can have on your device. You have a lot of things protecting the network, and we can actually, as a matter of fact, we should do a whole episode actually on like network hardware and things like that, because I think that could be a fun one as well. But from the software perspective, you're talking about protecting that endpoint, and there are ways where if you can open the window and let an attacker into your network that's really secure by doing something the wrong way, and that's where that antivirus or that EDR tool, which is kind of like the enterprise grade antivirus, anti-malware, comes into play. So that's where my first thought goes on those.
So look at us. I'm going to close this with an upbeat Disney thing. And you're going to hurl.
Do we need little birds flying around?
Pretty much. They land on my head. No, what the best tool, Richard, the best application is right here. How's that?
I like that.
Because I can hand you all the screwdrivers and hammers and anything you want, but if you're not taking the time, not only to understand how to use a tool, and this is a big thing that always bugs me about any application, not just security applications, is there's a big difference between understanding how to use the tool versus understanding the zeitgeist of what you should be doing. You know what I mean? And there's so many amazing tools out there. Well, actually, I'll use Wireshark as a great example of that. Most people with some amount of training can fire up a Wireshark and they can do some filtering and, they can capture on, certain things. But if you really want to get into Wireshark, there's so much more that there is into it. And it allows you to build up, just running TCP follow, for example, and building up a web page, importing in a certificate so that you can actually decrypt something and see what it looks like. That kind of stuff, that takes an extra level. I guess that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, it does. I agree.
But so I think the secret here, kids, is it doesn't matter what application you think's the best. There's always going to be somebody better at you than a particular application. But as you get better and better at it, people start recognizing, Richard is the ERP guy for us and EDP guy. What did I just say?
EDR guy?
Good Lord. It's
What's
all that
EDP?
it's all that rock and roll music in the 70s. But learn how to use tools, folks. I've been working with Wireshark for 20 years and I still play with it at least once a month, learning something new. And I think that's the secret when it comes to the ultimate security application. If you like Two Bold Nerds, check out our entire playlist right here. It's a lot of fun. We'll see you there.